I really can't tell you how many times now I've seen a clickbait article to the effect of "Death of the modern search engine" or "Why AI is the new Google search." And don't get me wrong, AI can be super useful when used in the right way. In fact, one of the most useful things it can do is parse through hundreds of pages of source material. For instance, let's say a manual on something you don't understand. It can read through huge swaths of information nearly instantaneously and then regurgitate it in a more easily understood way.
24.
And I can practically already hear in the comments now, well, that kind of sounds like an improved search engine, doesn't it? Not having to manually search through the table of contents or Control F my way to the exact answer I'm looking for, I can just sort of ask a question as a layman and it'll just guide me to the right answer. Sort of like talking to an expert, which can often save you a lot of time and research, because when you're brand new to something, well, you often don't know what you don't know, which is sort of the nemesis of all self-learning, at least in my experience. But AI can also be kind of stupid sometimes. At least it feels that way depending on exactly what you're trying to use it for. And I really do think it's important that we remember that. It's not some sort of black magic or end-all be-all answer to any problem you might have. You really have to take the answers with a grain of salt. Obviously, there's disclaimers on the various websites stating, hey, take these answers with a grain of salt and blah, 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 blah. But with how useful these AIs can be, I think a lot of us tend to glaze over that fact after we interact with them for a period of time. Here's a great example of exactly why you shouldn't just take any answer it gives verbatim. This is a pretty simple question. In fact, it actually came up on that "Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader" video game. Basically, if Jeremy had 4 pieces of pizza and wanted to share it equally among 7 friends, how many more times would I need to cut it? Well, right away, ChatGPT gives me some obviously incorrect answer, talking about how I need to make 10 pieces to share amongst my 7 friends, because somehow us mere mortals are going to calculate just how much 1.43 slices of pizza is down to the last bite. So first I point out that it's a bit of a word problem as much as it is a math problem, and sharing equally with 7 friends would imply sharing the pizza amongst 8 people, really, because you have to count yourself, or rather, Jeremy, who's gonna want a slice too. Sharing sort of implies the 7 friends plus Jeremy. As you can see, this is one of the problems with existing AI. But even after I explain that, while GPT does pretend to hear me, it immediately misses my point. Just like the new hire you spent 4 hours explaining how not to hurt themselves, proceeds to hurt themselves within the first 15 minutes of their shift. Great. Hey, Gary, can you reset the work incident counter? Oh man, again? I guess we're not getting that pizza party this month. GPT just keeps talking about how to share pizza amongst 7 people. But it's not giving me a completely incoherent answer. It instructs us to cut it twice more, so that we'd have 8 slices, leaving us with an extra slice. Which is technically the correct answer, because we would indeed need 8 slices to share amongst Jeremy and his 7 friends, for them to each get a slice. And once I point that out, GPT agrees. Yeah, those 2 cuts would in fact be the answer to the original question. What's interesting is it was able to come up with a correct answer through a flawed premise. I mean, let's just say it was 7 people that we were trying to share a pizza amongst. Well, cutting it into 8 slices would realistically be the solution any of us would choose in that case too. Yeah, you'd have an extra slice, and by extra I mean the second slice of pizza for the rudest member of the group. You know who you are. Lately, instead of asking AI for questions to answers directly, I find myself using it to help me consider viewpoints outside of my own, or even to give me a list of bullet points to start off from when I'm thinking of a subject. Because even bad ideas can be helpful when you're starting from scratch. At the very least, it can help make clear what you don't want, which actually helps narrow down what you're looking for. And a lot of times, people come up with their best ideas when they're not focused on coming up with their best idea. hearing bad ideas and shooting them down can often be the perfect white noise for me to realize a good idea. So while I don't necessarily think AI, as it is right now, will be the death of traditional search engines because, quite frankly, they're just not reliable enough, not yet. But whenever the day does come that AI can do all the heavy lifting from point A to Z, that's gonna be a scary day. I mean, I like convenience as much as the next guy. And like it or not, AI is here to stay, and every day it's getting a little smarter, which means every day we're becoming just a little more obsolete. And while I'd certainly like to retire at a young age and live in a utopia where work is optional and done mostly for pleasure or a sense of accomplishment, while I do think that the time when AI consumes a meaningful segment of the job market is within my lifetime, I don't know if the general population as a whole getting to enjoy that benefit is. At least, not the way I've seen most people react to concepts like UBI. I think it'd be a lot more likely we'll have a majority of the population who are still in jobs that haven't been absorbed by AI, looking down on folks who did lose their jobs and saying things like, well, you just have to get with the times, or it's your own fault for choosing a job that was so easy it could be taken over by a robot. You really just need to apply yourself and get back to school. And other comments which are ultimately saying, it's not my problem, so I don't care. I still have to work, and so should you. Humans are nothing if not inherently biased towards their own positions. And people that have lost their jobs will feel entitled to compensation. Perhaps in the form of something like UBI paid by the owners of the robots who took their jobs. While the people who are stuck working a 9 to 5 complain that we just be giving money to bums who don't want to work. I don't realistically think any type of UBI measures, even ones funded entirely on the backs of companies utilizing AI, will reach any sort of positive consensus. At least not until the majority of people are displaced from their jobs. Because when it's everyone's problem, or at least a problem for the majority of people, there won't be enough opposition left to shoot down measures for UBI. And in fact, I believe we'll see a pretty big swing in the general thought process behind UBI, when the majority turns on the bourgeoisie who owns the robots and simply demands UBI en masse. Anyway, I think this video was about cutting slices of pizza or something, which I probably talked about plenty, so thanks for watching. Okay, great. Hope you'll join me next time when I talk about other stuff. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye now.